Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2, also known as Project Orion. Now, this article right here has been said that Cyberpunk 2 is now moving forward and going out of the conceptual phase and reaching into pre production, which is pretty exciting news. So, at least for all the people that are big Cyberpunk fans, it's going to be a little while before we get a new one, but it is happening. And so, as this article says, isn't the official Cyberpunk 2 isn't the official title? Like I said, it's Project Orion. Since it was announced in 2022, it has shared many details about the game, but did describe it on Wednesday as the next big game set in the Cyberpunk universe. There are 96 developers working on the title as of April 30th, according to a slide deck. There's no official release date, either though on an investor call, Joint Chief Executive Officer Michael Nowakowski, hopefully I said that right, said that the company would deliver the game in due time. The company also announced that Cyberpunk's 2077's expansion Phantom Liberty has sold more than 10 million copies, which is actually insane that game, coming from where it was a couple years back or when it first released till now, to show that it's like it's on the all-time list of like greatest comebacks of games. Definitely No Man's Sky is another one I really could think of that released, and a lot of people were like, "Wow, this is not what we were expecting. This is not what we were promised." And then flipping everything around, and Cyberpunk 2077 has done the same thing with revamping the entire game and then turning around and dropping a DLC that is arguably one of the best DLCs that anyone's ever played, according to what people say. Now, it is saying that Cyberpunk 2077 will be on Nintendo Switch 2 on June 5th, so I guess we'll have to see how that game looks actually on there, given the Nintendo Switch's, the way it's looking when it comes to the specs. And then the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt's 10th anniversary was recently and sold more than 60 million copies, which is another crazy thing. But one thing I did also want to point out in another article was that Cyberpunk 2 is probably further away than you hope. And it's just talking about how it was reaching pre-production. And it said, however, the newfound forward momentum doesn't mean that Cyberpunk 2 will be arriving anytime soon. CDPR co-CEO Michael Nowakowski has indicated that the sequel may be years away from release. And if you could skip a little bit further, if that leads Cyberpunk 2 to a 2030 to 2031 release date. And that is just... It's crazy to think about that you'll have to wait that long to play a sequel. And given that Cyberpunk 2077 is an RPG, so it's a game you can go back to anytime and play, and being released on all consoles, every generation, really, it's probably going to be like a Witcher 3 type deal where every new generation it'll be released again and again. And but the reason why it's so far ahead or so far away is the bulk of CDPR's resources currently appears to be focused on the Witcher 4. So a lot of people are looking forward to that game, The Witcher 4. But anybody that's really into the Cyberpunk universe is going to have to wait a while. But one thing I decided to pull up was the Steam chart, and this is just on Steam. This is not including all the consoles the game is on. But as we're currently looking at, is 33,000 people playing Cyberpunk at the moment, which is an insane number, especially for a single-player game, because as most of you know, usually single-player games, once people beat the story, beat the game, that's it. But RPGs are a different scenario, different case. These games, when they get released, they have, replayability and able to keep going back, and you can keep making a new story, doing different things, side quests, this and that and the third. But an all-time peak of 830,000 people is something else I decided to point out, which was insane. That just goes to show how much hype was behind this game when it first released, and how big of a hit it took. Because if you think about it, back in the day, whenever the game first released, when it received all that, the critical it wasn't critical praise, but people were shooting it down. It made actually the stock of CDPR. It made the stock of the developers fall. That's how bad the game was received and how bad it actually affected the game. Because the majority of the time, if a team, if a company puts out a bad game or something like that, like Call of Duty or whatever, it's going to be a bad game and people are going to say, oh, this sucks, but it never really affects them financially as it did with Cyberpunk. And the people that the developers of that game, it actually dented their money. It dented their stocks. So that was something that really was a astonishing thing to look at. And like I said, with it being 830,000 people at an all-time peak, you can only imagine what Cyberpunk 2 or Project Orion, whatever they want to go with, you can only imagine how that's going to be looking whenever it releases. But like I said, that'll be years from now, which is sad to say because I really did enjoy Cyberpunk 2077. And we're looking at like a GTA style. You'll have to wait. Well, not as long as you have for GTA 6, but with Cyberpunk 2, it's going to be right up there. Kind of like an Elder Scrolls where you have to wait years before you actually get to even get to see anything on it. And hopefully they do stick with it though. But this is just a quick little thing I wanted to talk about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.